Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening.
David had been preparing for the Interstellar Trade Summit for weeks, hoping to make connections that would benefit his burgeoning tech startup. The neutral asteroid, chosen for its central location between several star systems, bustled with beings of all shapes and sizes. David navigated through the crowds, his human features drawing little attention among the diverse assembly. As he approached a booth showcasing advanced hydroponics technology, a potential boon for his desert farming projects back on Earth, he noticed her. She was slender and tall, her skin shimmering with a subtle, aquatic glow. She was examining a nutrient delivery system, her delicate fingers tracing the tubing with apparent fascination. "Quite something, isn't it?" David said, stepping up beside her. "The precision of these systems could revolutionize off-world farming." She turned towards him, her eyes wide with a mild surprise that quickly morphed into interest. "Yes, I agree. It's very impressive. The adaptability could prove useful for my planet's underwater agriculture as well." David's interest peaked. "Underwater agriculture? That sounds challenging." "I'm David, by the way. Lyra," she replied, her voice melodic, yet resonant. "And yes, it is a challenge, but one that teaches us much about resilience and adaptability." They moved together to the next display, their conversation flowing effortlessly. Lyra explained her planet's reliance on underwater ecosystems and the delicate balance they maintain to support life. David shared his experiences with arid environments and the technologies he developed to conserve every possible drop of water. "Sounds like despite our environments being opposites, we face similar challenges," David mused. "Perhaps there's room for collaboration." Lyra smiled, a spark of enthusiasm lighting up her face. "I would like that. It's rare to find someone who truly understands the intricacies of such specialized ecosystems." Their discussion was interrupted by an announcement over the loudspeaker, calling all attendees to the main hall for the summit's opening remarks. As they walked side by side, David couldn't help but feel a connection forming, one that went beyond mere professional interest. In the main hall, they found seats together. As various leaders spoke about the importance of cooperation and peace among civilizations, David and Lyra shared their thoughts on the speeches, their whispers blending with the soft hum of the diverse crowd. Once the formalities concluded, they decided to grab a meal at the summit's diner. Sitting across from each other in the busy eatery, their conversation deepened. Lyra spoke of her home, a world of vast oceans and floating cities, her descriptions painting vivid images in David's mind. "And what about Earth?" Lyra asked. "What is it like, living among such vast diversity?" David chuckled. "It's both wonderful and challenging. Humans can be both incredibly kind and remarkably difficult. But I suppose that's true of any species." Lyra nodded. "True indeed. It's the diversity that teaches us the most, don't you think?" As they continued to talk, the hours slipped by unnoticed. It was only when the diner began to close that they realized how long they had been together. Standing outside, under the artificial lights of the asteroid, David felt reluctant to part ways. "Would you like to continue this tomorrow? Maybe take a tour around the trade booths together?" Lyra's smile was all the answer he needed. "I would like that very much, David." As they parted ways, David felt a surge of anticipation for the next day. Meeting Lyra had transformed an ordinary trade summit into the beginning of something new and potentially life-changing. He couldn't have imagined that the simple act of attending a conference would lead to a connection that might just span star systems. The second day of the summit brought a fresh wave of excitement. David found himself eagerly scanning the crowds for Lyra as he approached the designated meeting spot. When he saw her already waiting, a sense of relief washed over him. "Good morning, Lyra," David greeted, his voice carrying a cheerful note. "Ready for another day of discovery?" "Absolutely, David," Lyra responded, her luminous eyes reflecting her enthusiasm. "I was thinking about our conversation yesterday. There's a lot we can learn from each other." As they wandered through the trade booths, their discussions delved deeper into their respective technologies and the possibilities of integrating Earth's solar power advancements with Lyra's aquatic systems. Their collaborative ideas sparked interest from several vendors and researchers, leading to animated exchanges and shared contact information. At a small cafe nestled between exhibition halls, David and Lyra took a moment to enjoy some refreshments. It was then that Lyra's demeanor shifted slightly, her usual brightness tempered by a hint of seriousness. "David, there's something important I need to tell you," she started, hesitating as she searched for the right words. "What's on your mind?" David asked, his tone softening. I'm pregnant," Lyra confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "And I'm quite far from home." David paused, taking in her words. "Pregnant? That's big news. How are you feeling about it?" "It's complicated," Lyra sighed. "In my culture, the community plays a big role in raising children, but I can't go back. It's not safe for me there now because of my child's heritage. The father isn't from my species, and that's not widely accepted where I come from." David's mind raced as he processed her situation. "That sounds incredibly tough, Lyra, but here you are, dealing with it bravely. How can I help?" "I don't know yet," she admitted. "I didn't plan for this, but I can't think of going through it alone. You've been kind, and I felt I could trust you with this." David reached across the table, offering a reassuring hand. "Then let's figure this out together. You're not alone, Lyra. We'll find a way to navigate this." Their conversation continued for hours as they brainstormed potential solutions. David suggested seeking asylum on Mars, where he had connections that could help. Mars was known for its progressive stance on interspecies relations and might offer a safer environment for Lyra and her child. "Could that work for you?" David asked, hopeful. "It might not be perfect, but it could be a start." Lyra considered this, her expression mingling apprehension with a flicker of hope. "It sounds promising," she finally said. "I need to think about it more, but thank you, David. I appreciate you standing by me." As the day drew to a close, they agreed to meet again the next morning to finalize their plans. Walking back to his accommodation, David felt a profound shift in his priorities. What started as a professional connection had quickly evolved into a personal commitment. He was determined to help Lyra, not just as a friend, but as someone who now shared a significant part of her life's unexpected journey. The weight of the responsibility was daunting, yet David felt an unwavering resolve to stand by her side. The sun had barely risen over the horizon of Mars as David and Lyra disembarked from their shuttle. The red dust of the Martian surface glittered under the weak sunlight, a stark contrast to the vibrant blues of Lyra's home world. Mars, with its bustling colonies and reputation for progressive policies, seemed like their best hope. "Welcome to Mars," David said, trying to infuse some cheer into his voice as they walked towards the immigration center. Lyra looked around, her gaze absorbing the new landscape. "It's so different from what I'm used to," she murmured. "But I'm ready to start this new chapter." The immigration center was a large, dome-shaped building teeming with beings from various planets. David led the way to the counter, where a human officer greeted them. "Good morning, how can I help you today?" the officer asked, eyeing their documents. "We're here to apply for asylum," David explained. "My friend is pregnant and cannot return to her planet due to safety concerns." The officer nodded, her expression turning serious. "I understand. Please fill out these forms, and we'll need to conduct a brief interview." The paperwork was extensive, asking for details about Lyra's situation, her health, and her reasons for seeking refuge. As they filled out each section, David remained close by, helping Lyra navigate the legal jargon. Once the paperwork was submitted, they were asked to wait for their interview. Sitting in the crowded waiting area, David tried to distract Lyra from her nervousness. "Once we get through this, we can find you a comfortable place to stay. I have a few friends here who might be able to help us out," he said. Lyra managed a small smile. "Thank you, David. I don't know what I would have done without you." Their names were eventually called, and they were led into a small room where a Martian official waited. The interview was thorough, with the official asking detailed questions about Lyra's background, the nature of the threat she faced, and her health. David watched as Lyra answered each question with a quiet strength. When it was his turn, he spoke about his commitment to supporting Lyra and the potential their combined skills had to contribute to Martian society. The official seemed impressed by their sincerity and determination. "We will need to review your application, but everything seems in order. We'll do our best to process this quickly." Leaving the immigration center, David and Lyra felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. The next step was finding a place to live. David contacted a friend who owned a small apartment complex that was known for housing diverse species. "Hey, Mark, it's David. I need a favor," David started, explaining their situation. "Of course, David. I have a unit that should be perfect for you guys. It's got an adjustable environment control, so we can set it up for Lyra's needs," Mark responded generously. They moved into the apartment later that day, a modest but comfortable place that Mark had equipped with an environmental regulator to mimic the humidity of Lyra's aquatic planet. As they unpacked, Lyra looked around with a weary but grateful expression. "This will be our home for now," David said, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll make it work, no matter what." That night, as they shared a simple meal, they talked about their plans, how they would integrate into Martian society, the skills they could offer, and the kind of future they hoped to build. Each conversation strengthened their bond, their partnership grounded in mutual support and a shared determination to overcome the challenges ahead. Life on Mars proved to be a mosaic of challenges and small victories. David and Lyra's apartment became a sanctuary, a place where they could bridge the vast differences between their worlds. David had arranged for modifications to their home environment, making it more hospitable for Lyra's aquatic nature, while she shared insights from her planet that could help improve water recycling technologies on Mars. One afternoon, they attended a local community center which hosted a group dedicated to helping extraterrestrial residents integrate into Martian society. The room buzzed with multiple languages and colors, a testament to Mars' diverse population. David nudged Lyra gently as they entered. "You're not alone in feeling out of place. Look around. Diversity is what makes this community thrive." Lyra nodded, her eyes scanning the room curiously. "It's comforting in a way to see so many different beings finding a way to coexist." They were greeted by Tom, the group's facilitator, who was a Martian native with a deep understanding of the struggles faced by immigrants. "Welcome, Lyra and David. We're here to support each other, share experiences, and learn about this planet we call home." The session began with introductions. One by one, individuals from different planets shared their stories, each narrative weaving a tapestry of hope and adaptation. Lyra listened intently, and when it was her turn, she spoke of her home, the vast oceans, and her journey to Mars. "I came here seeking safety and a new beginning," Lyra said softly. "The journey hasn't been easy, but I'm hopeful." Tom nodded, his expression empathetic. "You've come to the right place. What can we do to make you feel more at home?" "I need to understand more about Martian culture, the laws, and how I might be able to contribute here," Lyra responded. "That's a good start," Tom replied. "We have language classes, legal workshops, and job fairs. Also, sharing your own knowledge and skills can be a great way to integrate and make valuable contributions." David watched proudly as Lyra engaged with the group, her initial hesitation giving way to a more confident demeanor. After the meeting, they stayed back to chat with Tom, who offered to connect Lyra with local environmental projects looking for experts in aquatic systems. As they left the center, Lyra squeezed David's hand. "Thank you for bringing me here. It feels good to take steps toward becoming part of this community." Over the following weeks, David and Lyra became regulars at the community center. Lyra enrolled in Martian cultural orientation classes and joined a project working on sustainable water sources for the colony. Meanwhile, David helped facilitate partnerships between Martian tech companies and interstellar trade networks, using his contacts to bridge gaps. One evening, as they prepared dinner together in their adapted kitchen, David reflected on their progress. "You know, seeing you so involved in the community, making friends, it makes me think we really can make this work." Lyra smiled, chopping vegetables in a water-filled sink specially designed for her. "I'm starting to feel that way too. It's not just about surviving on a new planet. It's about thriving, about building something new together." Their conversations often drifted towards the future, discussing plans for raising their child in a diverse environment, and how they could use their experiences to help others in similar situations. Lyra turned to David, her expression thoughtful. "What we're doing here, adapting, learning, helping, it's not just for us. It's for our child too, to grow up in a world where differences are valued, not feared. David nodded, his heart full. Exactly. We're laying down roots, Lyra. Not just for us, but for the next generation. Their commitment to each other and their new community deepened with each passing day as they built a life that was about more than survival. It was about creating a home. The Martian landscape, once alien to Lyra, had begun to feel more like home. David had been instrumental in making their apartment a place where both of their needs were met, but as Lyra's due date approached, the reality of raising a child on Mars became the forefront of their concerns. One morning, David found Lyra gazing out the window, watching the dusty red wind swirl. He joined her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "What's on your mind?" he asked gently. "I was just thinking about the baby's room," Lyra said. "We need to start preparing, don't we?" David nodded. "I've been thinking the same. Let's make it a weekend project. We can pick up what we need today and start setting it up." They spent the day shopping for supplies. David was focused on finding the most durable and safe materials, while Lyra was drawn to colors and textures that reminded her of her underwater world. As they moved through the market, David joked with the vendors and haggled over prices, while Lyra chatted with other expectant parents, sharing stories and advice. The sense of community was palpable, and both felt buoyed by the support they received. Back at home, they started transforming the spare room into a nursery. David assembled the crib with practiced hands, while Lyra decorated the walls with murals of the ocean, bringing a piece of her world to their child's life. "Does it look okay?" Lyra asked, stepping back to assess her work. "It looks more than okay," David replied, admiring the deep blues and greens that made the room feel like an underwater cave. "It's perfect." They worked together, fitting each piece of furniture, choosing soft fabrics, and installing a special aquatic system that would help regulate the humidity in the room. Every choice was a blend of their two worlds, a reflection of their unique journey together. As they worked, they talked about their hopes for their child. "I want him to know where he comes from," Lyra said, touching her belly gently. "Both his heritages, and he will," David assured her. "We'll teach him about Earth and your planet. He'll grow up knowing the best of both." The room took shape over the weekend, each addition making it feel more like a home. They installed a small device that projected stars onto the ceiling, a nod to the night skies of both Earth and Lyra's oceanic world. On Sunday evening, they stood in the doorway, looking at their creation. The room was a tranquil space, ready to welcome their child. "This feels right," Lyra murmured, leaning into David. "Thank you for making this possible." "It's our future," David said, squeezing her hand. "We did it together." That night, they shared a quiet dinner, talking about the day they would bring their child home. The conversation was full of laughter and shared dreams, the challenges of the past few months seeming a little lighter. As they went to bed, the nursery next door stood ready, a symbol of their new life on Mars, a life they had built together against all odds. The thought brought a sense of peace to both David and Lyra as they drifted off to sleep, dreaming of the family they were about to become. The morning Lyra went into labor, Mars seemed to stand still. The red dust swirled gently in the weak sunlight as David rushed around their apartment, gathering everything they needed for the hospital. "Are you sure we have everything?" Lyra asked, her voice calm despite the pain. "Yes, I've packed the bags with everything on your list," David reassured her, checking over the items one last time. "Let's get you to the hospital." The drive to the hospital was quiet, the usual bustle of Martian traffic subdued, as if in anticipation of the new life about to begin. Upon arrival, they were quickly ushered into a delivery room specially prepared for interspecies births, equipped with both water and dry areas to accommodate Lyra's needs. As the contractions grew closer together, David stayed by Lyra's side, holding her hand and offering words of encouragement. The midwife, a seasoned professional experienced with interspecies births, guided Lyra through the process with patience and expertise. "It's going well, Lyra. You're doing great," the midwife said, checking the monitors. David could only watch in awe as Lyra, with incredible strength, navigated each wave of pain. Between contractions, she squeezed his hand, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of determination and vulnerability. As the labor progressed, David felt a profound connection to Lyra, witnessing the sheer force of nature that childbirth was. "I'm here, Lyra. "You're not alone," he murmured during a particularly intense contraction. After several hours, the moment finally came. "I can see the head," the midwife exclaimed. "One more push, Lyra." With a strength born of love and necessity, Lyra pushed, and the sound of a newborn's cry filled the room. The midwife quickly and carefully lifted the baby, placing him in a specially designed warming unit that accommodated his unique hybrid needs. "He's perfect," David whispered, tears of joy mingling with overwhelming relief as he looked at their son. The midwife cleaned and checked the baby before wrapping him in a blanket and handing him to Lyra. Holding her son for the first time, Lyra's expression was one of wonder and love. "Hello, my little one," she cooed, gently touching his cheek. David leaned over, placing a kiss on Lyra's forehead and then on the baby's head. "Welcome to Mars, little guy." The hours that followed were a blur of medical checks and congratulations from hospital staff. David and Lyra were left alone with their son, marveling at him, each tiny feature a blend of their two worlds. In the privacy of the hospital room, they discussed names. "What should we call him?" David asked, watching the baby yawn. "Something that represents both his heritages," Lyra suggested, her gaze not leaving their son. "How about Turan? It means earth in my language." "Turan," David repeated, trying out the name. "Turan it is." They spent the night in the hospital, taking turns holding Turan and resting. Despite the exhaustion, neither could sleep much, each moment with their son precious and fleeting. The next morning, as they prepared to leave the hospital, David felt a quiet resolve settle over him. Their journey had been nothing short of miraculous, and now, with Turan in their arms, it felt as though a new chapter was just beginning. As they stepped out of the hospital into the light Martian breeze, David looked at Lyra and Turan, his family, his future. No matter what challenges lay ahead, he knew they would face them together, as a family united by love and strengthened by their shared experiences. David and Lyra returned home from the hospital with Turan nestled securely in his father's arms. The Martian sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow over the nursery they had prepared. It was a serene setting, welcoming Turan to his new world. Over the next few weeks, they settled into a routine. David took paternity leave to help at home, learning to care for Turan's unique needs alongside Lyra. The community around them showed immense support, offering advice, and even customized baby supplies suitable for Turan's hybrid physiology. One afternoon, as Lyra rested, David took Turan for a walk around their neighborhood. The Martian landscape had never felt more like home. Neighbors stopped to admire Turan, asking about his health and marveling at his calm demeanor. "He's going to be a strong boy," one neighbor, a Martian botanist named Theo, remarked as he peered into the stroller. "Looks just like his mother," David laughed, "and stubborn like his father." When they returned home, Lyra was waiting with a smile. "How was the walk?" she asked, taking Turan into her arms. "Great. Everyone's really excited about him," David replied, watching Lyra soothe Turan with a gentle sway. "Actually, Theo suggested we introduce Turan to the community officially. They're planning a small gathering at the community center." Lyra's eyes lit up. "That sounds wonderful. It would be nice to show our gratitude for their support." The day of the gathering, the community center was buzzing with excitement. Friends and neighbors from various species came, each bringing gifts and well wishes for Turan. The center was decorated with a blend of earth and aquatic themes, symbolizing Turan's heritage. Tom, the community facilitator, welcomed everyone. "Today, we celebrate not just the arrival of a child, but the growing bonds of our community. Turan's birth symbolizes a new step forward for all of us in understanding and acceptance." David held Turan, feeling a swell of pride. He introduced his son to the crowd, his voice steady and full of emotion. "Thank you, everyone, for your kindness and support. Lyra and I are grateful to be part of this community. Turan is lucky to grow up with such diverse and caring neighbors." Lyra joined him, adding, "Your open hearts and minds make Mars feel like home. We hope Turan will learn the best of our worlds and contribute to this great community as he grows." As the gathering continued, people shared food, stories, and laughter. David and Lyra mingled with guests, receiving advice, anecdotes, and blessings. The sense of unity was palpable, reinforcing their decision to raise Turan on Mars. Later, as the guests began to leave, Theo approached David with a small sapling in a pot. It's a hybrid plant, part Martian, part terrestrial. Thought it might symbolize Turan's dual heritage well. David accepted the gift with a grateful nod. Thank you, Theo. We'll plant it where Turan can watch it grow, just as he grows. As the sun set over Mars, casting a crimson hue over the landscape, David, Lyra, and Turan stood at their front door, the sapling beside them. They were a family, intertwined with their community, ready to face the future with optimism and courage. Looking at Lyra and Turan, David felt a profound connection to everything around him. The challenges of the past seemed small compared to the joy of the present and the potential of the future. This is just the beginning, he said to Lyra as they watched Turan sleep that night. A new life, a new world, a new hope. Yes, Lyra whispered back, a new beginning indeed. And with that, they turned their gaze to the stars, dreaming of what the future might hold for their son on Mars. Several years had passed since Turan's birth, and David often found himself reflecting on the profound ways his life had changed. Turan, now a lively toddler with his mother's luminous eyes and his father's curious nature, was a constant source of joy and wonder. One crisp Martian morning, David walked with Turan along the colony's Central Park, a dome-covered area filled with earth plants and Martian sculptures. Turan ran ahead, laughing as he chased a fluttering, bioluminescent insect native to Mars. Be careful, Turan, David called out, his voice filled with a mixture of amusement and paternal concern. Don't worry, Daddy. I'm super fast, Turan shouted back, his small voice echoing slightly under the dome. Watching his son, David couldn't help but smile broadly. The park was bustling with other families, a vivid illustration of the thriving, diverse community they were part of. As he caught up with Turan, who had paused to look at a small, red-leafed plant, an elderly Martian man approached them. Good morning, David. Turan's growing fast, isn't he? The man, named Corinne, remarked with a warm grin. Morning, Corinne. He sure is. I can barely keep up with him these days, David replied, patting Turan's head. Corinne laughed, then bent down to Turan's level. And what have you found there, young explorer? It's a fire leaf plant. Mommy showed me in a book, Turan explained excitedly, pointing at the plant. That's right, Corinne nodded. It's native to Mars. You're becoming quite the expert. David watched the exchange, his heart full. We're actually on our way to meet Lyra at the community center. We're planning the 5th anniversary of the Interspecies Integration Program. That's wonderful. The work you've both done has really helped many families. I'll be there to celebrate with everyone, Corinne said, standing up with a slight groan. Looking forward to it, Corinne. See you there, David said as they waved goodbye and continued their walk. At the community center, Lyra was coordinating the final touches for the celebration. The center was decorated with vibrant banners representing different planets and cultures. David and Turan arrived just in time to help with the preparations. Hey, you two. Everything looks fantastic, Lyra, David said, putting an arm around her as they looked around. Thanks. It's a big day. I'm glad we're doing this together, Lyra responded, giving him a quick peck on the cheek. As the celebration began, families from various backgrounds gathered, sharing stories and experiences. David spoke to the assembly, recounting the origins of the integration program and the strides they had made. 5 years ago, we envisioned a community where everyone could feel at home, regardless of their origin. Looking around today, I see that vision has become a reality. It's not just about living together. It's about thriving together. Lyra joined him, holding Turan's hand. This community has given us a family and a place to call home. We've learned from each other, supported each other, and grown together. Thank you for being a part of this journey. The crowd applauded, and the celebration continued with music, dance, and a communal meal. David felt a deep connection to everyone there, bound by shared experiences and collective hopes. As the day wound down, David, Lyra, and Turan walked back to their home under the stars of the artificially lit Martian night sky. Turan, did you have fun today? David asked. Yes, I loved the dancing and the yummy food, Tarun replied, his energy finally waning. David squeezed Lyra's hand, looking down at Tarun, who was starting to nod off as he walked. Our life changed completely the day we learned about you, Lyra. And every day since has been an adventure. Lyra smiled, leaning her head on David's shoulder. An adventure I wouldn't trade for the universe. As they reached their home, David felt a profound gratitude for the life they had built. Their journey had been unexpected and challenging, but it had led to a life filled with love, purpose, and community. As he tucked Tarun into bed that night, he whispered, "Dream big, little explorer." With Tarun asleep, David and Lyra stood by the window, watching Mars glow softly in the night. Their world had changed, but together, they had found their place in it.